The distant rumble of the USS Defiance fusion drives vibrated through Admiral Jack Morrison's boots as he stood on the command bridge, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic display of Earth's orbital defense network. The year 2285 had been peaceful until now. Humanity had expanded throughout the neighboring star systems, with Earth serving as the political and cultural center of human civilization. "Status report on the Titan garrison?" Morrison asked, his voice carrying the weight of 30 years in Earth's Space Command. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez swiped through several screens before responding. "All systems nominal, Admiral. The Jupiter orbital platforms have completed their quarterly weapons test with 97% accuracy." Morrison nodded with satisfaction. Humanity's military might had grown significantly since the Mars conflict of 2198. The United Earth government had invested trillions in developing a defensive perimeter that extended from Mercury to the Kuiper Belt. It wasn't paranoia. It was prudence. The void between stars was vast, but not empty of potential threats. His comm unit chimed with a priority alert from Earth. "Admiral Morrison, President Carter requests your presence at the Emergency Security Council meeting in 30 minutes. Morrison frowned. Lisa Carter had been elected President of United Earth only 6 months ago. A compassionate leader with a reputation for level-headed decision-making in crisis situations. An emergency meeting called with such short notice could only mean trouble. "Inform the President I'll attend via quantum link. Have Dr. Walsh join the call as well. If this involves potential extraterrestrial contact, we'll need her expertise." As the Defiant continued its patrol of Earth's orbital defense grid, Morrison couldn't shake the feeling that humanity's relative peace was about to be shattered. In the White House Situation Room, President Lisa Carter stood before a table of anxious faces. The holographic projections of Admiral Morrison and Dr. Amy Walsh, the foremost expert on extraterrestrial cultures, flickered slightly as the quantum link stabilized. "Thank you all for responding so quickly," Carter began, her normally warm voice tight with tension. 17 minutes ago, our deep space monitoring stations detected a massive energy signature at the edge of our solar system. Whatever it is, it's big, and it's heading straight for Earth. The room erupted in murmurs until Secretary of Defense Brooks stood. "Madam President, could this be a natural phenomenon, perhaps a gravitational anomaly?" Dr. Walsh shook her head, her holographic image gesturing toward the data streaming beside her. "The energy signature contains distinct patterns consistent with propulsion systems. These aren't random emissions, they're controlled burns. This is a fleet, and a massive one at that." Admiral Morrison's projection leaned forward. "How massive?" The answer came from General Clark, who tapped her tablet to project a three-dimensional map of the solar system. "Based on current readings, we're looking at several hundred vessels, each one larger than anything in our fleet. The lead ship alone is approximately 12 kilometers in length." A stunned silence fell over the room. "First contact," President Carter said quietly. "After centuries of searching the stars, they've found us instead." The alarm klaxon on the Defiance Bridge shattered the tense atmosphere like a thunderclap. Admiral Morrison spun toward the tactical officer. "Report!" "Sir, multiple vessels just dropped out of FTL at the edge of the solar system, counting over 200 ships of unknown configuration. They're massive, sir." Morrison's quantum link to Earth was still active, broadcasting the unfolding crisis directly to the Situation Room. "Mr. President, we have visual confirmation. Putting it on screen now." The holographic display shifted to show a fleet of ships unlike anything humanity had ever constructed. Their hulls were midnight black, absorbing rather than reflecting light, with angular protrusions that suggested weapon systems of incomprehensible power. The formation was precise, military precision. "They're broadcasting something, sir," the communications officer announced. It's being transmitted on all frequencies, in perfect English." "Let's hear it," Morrison ordered, his face grim. A deep, resonant voice filled the bridge of the Defiant and the White House Situation Room simultaneously. Attention, inhabitants of the third planet. I am Emperor Vorak of the Zepyrian Dominion, sovereign ruler of 9,000 worlds across this galaxy. Your primitive civilization has been observed and found wanting. You will submit to Zepyrian rule within 72 Earth hours. Resistance is futile and will result in planetary sterilization. The choice is yours, servitude or extinction. The message ended abruptly, leaving a silence heavier than the vacuum of space itself. President Carter's voice broke the silence. Admiral Morrison, I need options. Dr. Walsh, I need insights. Everyone else, we have 72 hours to decide the fate of our species. Let's make them count. The Interplanetary Security Council convened within the hour, with representatives from all human colonies attending via quantum link. The massive chamber, normally used for more ceremonial functions, now served as the venue for humanity's most crucial debate. "This is madness!" exclaimed the Mars colonial governor. "We cannot possibly stand against a civilization capable of fielding ships of that size. We must negotiate terms of surrender to ensure our survival." His statement triggered an immediate uproar. The representative from Europa pounded her fist on the table. "Surrender and become slaves to alien masters? Our ancestors did not traverse the void between worlds to bow before the first bully we encounter." President Carter allowed the debate to continue, observing the natural division forming between those advocating immediate surrender and those demanding resistance at any cost. She felt the weight of history on her shoulders, billions of lives hanging in the balance, with her decision potentially determining the fate of human civilization itself. Admiral Morrison's hologram leaned toward her. "Madam President, while they deliberate, we should discuss our military options." Carter nodded, and a smaller holographic conference formed at her side of the chamber, including Morrison, Dr. Walsh, and Captain Steve Parker, commander of Earth's elite Falcon Squadron. "The Zepyrian ships are technologically superior," Morrison began. "But we might have some advantages they don't anticipate. Captain Parker has been analyzing their communication patterns." Parker, a battle-hardened veteran with a reputation for unconventional tactics, displayed a series of waveform analyses. Their transmissions are powerful, but surprisingly unsophisticated. No quantum encryption, minimal signal compression. It suggests they might be overconfident, relying on brute force rather than efficiency. Dr. Walsh interjected, her eyes wide with realization. "There's something else. The message from Emperor Vorak mentioned primitive civilization, yet they transmitted in perfect English. They've been studying us, but there's a good chance they've underestimated us precisely because they believe themselves so superior." "What about their weapon systems?" Carter asked. "Unknown specifics," Morrison replied, "but the configuration suggests energy-based weaponry, likely plasma or particle beams. Our kinetic defense platforms might actually be effective against them if they're expecting energy-on-energy combat." President Carter absorbed this information, feeling the first glimmer of hope. "And our AI systems? The neural networks controlling our defense grid?" Parker smiled for the first time. "That might be our ace. Madam President, most advanced civilizations developed AI cautiously after near-extinction events. But Earth's integration of AI has been uniquely collaborative. If the Zepyrians follow the galactic norm Dr. Walsh has theorized, they may have significant blind spots regarding artificial intelligence." As the larger debate raged on, Carter felt the weight of the decision crystallizing in her mind. Surrender meant survival. But at what cost? Resistance might mean extinction. But perhaps not. Perhaps humanity had strengths the Zepyrians couldn't fathom. 48 hours into the ultimatum, humanity's response remained divided. Military preparations continued around the clock, with civilian evacuation ships ready to carry Earth's population to the outer colonies if the worst came to pass. The Zepyrian fleet had moved closer, now positioned just beyond Mars's orbit, a silent, ominous presence. President Carter sat alone in the Oval Office, watching the sun set over Washington, D.C. The city looked peaceful, its inhabitants unaware that their fate hung in the balance. Most civilians had been told only that a diplomatic situation was developing, the full truth deemed too potentially destabilizing. Her door opened, and Chief of Staff Williams entered. "Madam President, it's time for the final Security Council vote." Carter nodded, rising slowly. "Has public opinion changed?" "It's still split down the middle. 48% favor negotiated surrender, 46% favor resistance. The rest, undecided." She walked to the window, watching the last rays of sunlight disappear. "You know, Thomas Jefferson once wrote that the tree of liberty must occasionally be refreshed with the blood of patriots. I never truly understood that until now." Williams remained silent, allowing her the moment. "Arrange a direct communication link with Emperor Vorak," she finally said. "I'll deliver humanity's answer personally." The Security Council chamber fell silent as President Carter entered. The votes had been tallied, by the narrowest of margins. The Council recommended negotiated surrender, but the final decision rested with the President alone. Carter took her place at the central podium, looking at the faces of humanity's leaders, some resigned, others defiant, all anxious. "The Security Council has voted, and I thank you all for your counsel," she began. "However, there are moments in history when the burden of leadership cannot be shared. This is one such moment." She straightened her shoulders. "I have requested a direct channel to Emperor Vorak. Whatever happens next, I want you all to know it has been the highest honor to serve humanity." The main screen activated, revealing the imposing figure of Emperor Vorak for the first time. His skin was pale blue, stretched tight over a skeletal structure that seemed both familiar and alien. Multiple yellow eyes blinked independently across a face that resembled a geometric nightmare. "President Carter," Vorak's voice resonated through the chamber. "Your time expires in 24 hours. Have you come to offer your surrender?" Carter met his alien gaze without flinching. "Emperor Vorak, I speak not just for Earth but for all humanity across the stars. We have considered your ultimatum carefully." She paused, feeling the weight of history. "Our answer is this: humanity will never surrender its freedom. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever." Gasps echoed through the chamber as Vorak's multiple eyes narrowed simultaneously. "Then you choose extinction. How disappointing, yet predictable from such an undeveloped species." "Before you carry out your threat," Carter continued, her voice gaining strength, "you should know that I have just authorized the broadcast of what we call the Freedom Signal. It's being transmitted across the galaxy on all frequencies, carrying a simple message to every world under your control. Rise up. The signal includes the full, technical specifications of our quantum communication network, unhackable, untraceable, allowing your subjugated worlds to coordinate without detection." For the first time, Vorak's composure faltered. "A meaningless gesture. My empire has stood for millennia. No primitive communication network will..." "We've also included complete schematics for our advanced AI systems and autonomous drone technology," Carter interrupted. "Technology your empire has apparently neglected due to your... what did Dr. Walsh call it? Your cultural blind spots regarding artificial intelligence?" Vorak rose from his throne, his form towering even through the screen. "You dare to threaten the Zephyrian Dominion? Your insolence will be your epitaph. Human, prepare for..." The transmission cut abruptly as Admiral Morrison's hologram appeared. "Madam President, the Zephyrian fleet has begun accelerating toward Earth. They're deploying what appear to be weapon systems." Carter turned to the stunned council. "This is no longer a debate. This is war. Admiral Morrison, you have authorization to execute Operation Prometheus." Morrison nodded grimly. "Yes, Madam President. The Defiant is moving to intercept near Jupiter's orbit, Captain Parker's Falcon Squadron is already in position. As the council erupted into chaos, Carter raised her voice over the din. To your stations, all of you. Coordinate with your colonial governments. Activate all defense protocols. Humanity stands together, or we fall together. The first battle for Earth's survival took place in the vast expanse near Jupiter's orbit. The USS Defiant, accompanied by 30 smaller but agile combat vessels, faced off against a Zephyrian battle group twice their size. On the Defiant's bridge, Admiral Morrison watched the tactical display with steely determination. Status of the kinetic platforms? Online and ready, sir. The railgun installations on Ganymede and Callisto are charged to maximum capacity. Morrison nodded. And the AI defense matrix? Neural network is processing at optimal levels. The adaptive targeting systems are primed and ready to learn Zephyrian evasion patterns. Very well. Morrison took a deep breath. Signal Captain Parker. Operation Prometheus begins on my mark. In the White House Situation Room, President Carter and her advisors watched the tactical feed with bated breath. Dr. Walsh pointed to the unusual formation of the human fleet. They're deliberately presenting as disorganized, she observed, making themselves appear technologically inferior. Secretary Brooks frowned. Is that wise? We're already outgunned. It's psychological warfare, Carter replied. Admiral Morrison is baiting them into overconfidence. On screen, the massive Zephyrian vessels moved with ponderous grace, their weapon systems glowing with building energy. The first plasma discharge lanced toward the Defiant, only to miss as the ship executed a maneuver that seemed almost impossible for its size. Now, Morrison's command echoed across all human channels. From the surfaces of Jupiter's moons, massive electromagnetic railguns fired in perfect synchronization. Tungsten rods, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed, struck the lead Zephyrian vessels before their shields could adapt to the unexpected kinetic attack. Simultaneously, Captain Parker's Falcon Squadron emerged from hiding within Jupiter's radiation belt, launching swarms of autonomous drones that attached themselves to the hulls of the Zephyrian ships. The drones are transmitting the virus package, Parker reported. Enemy communication systems are experiencing cascade failures. The battle unfolded with surprising speed. Without their centralized command structure, the Zephyrian vessels fell into disarray. The human fleet, guided by their adaptive AI systems, exploited every weakness, targeting propulsion systems and weapons with surgical precision. Within hours, the unthinkable had happened. The Zephyrian battle group retreated, leaving behind the smoking hulks of 12 destroyed vessels. News of the victory spread throughout the human colonies like wildfire. More importantly, the freedom signal had reached distant stars. Reports began filtering in of uprisings on Zephyrian-controlled worlds, their previously invincible military suddenly vulnerable without their communication networks. Emperor Vorak's response was swift and terrible. A transmission reached Earth, his rage palpable even through the digital medium. You have won nothing, humans. I have commanded the assembly of the Grand Armada, 3,000 warships that will reduce your world to ash. Enjoy your brief victory. It will make your extinction all the sweeter. Despite the threat, the mood in Earth's military command was cautiously optimistic. The first battle had proven that humanity could fight and win. We've bloodied their nose, Admiral Morrison told the assembled War Council. But the real test is coming. We need a decisive strategy for the Grand Armada. Captain Parker stepped forward. Admiral, I believe we should make our stand at Alpha Centauri, not Earth. Abandon our homeworld? General Clark objected. Not abandon. Protect, Parker clarified. Alpha Centauri has the largest asteroid belt in human-controlled space. With enough time, we can convert those resources into the largest defensive network ever constructed. President Carter considered the strategy. How much time do we need? 3 weeks minimum, Morrison answered. But the Zephyrians will arrive in 2. Then we need to buy time, Carter decided. Dr. Walsh, What's the status of our diplomatic outreach to other species affected by the Zephyrian Dominion? Walsh's expression brightened. Better than we could have hoped. Madam President, the Kepler Alliance has already pledged support with their stealth technology. The hive minds of Proxima offer their collective consciousness to enhance our AI systems. Even the Silicon Rock peoples, who rarely involve themselves in organic conflicts, have offered engineering expertise. A coalition, Carter mused. Not just of humanity, but of freedom throughout the galaxy. For the next 2 weeks, humanity worked with unprecedented unity and purpose. The asteroid belt of Alpha Centauri was transformed into a fortress, with thousands of kinetic weapons platforms embedded within the larger rocks. Massive railguns, capable of accelerating projectiles to relativistic speeds, were constructed on the system's outer planets. Captain Parker led the most dangerous mission, a small team infiltrating a damaged Zephyrian vessel to gather intelligence on their command protocols. The information they retrieved proved invaluable, allowing Dr. Walsh and her team to develop a more sophisticated version of the virus that had proven so effective in the first engagement. As preparations neared completion, Morrison addressed the combined fleet, now numbering 800 vessels from a dozen different species. "We face overwhelming odds," he acknowledged. "But remember this. The Zephyrians rule through fear, while we fight for freedom. Their soldiers obey out of terror, while you stand here by choice. That is our true strength, and it cannot be measured by the size of our fleet or the power of our weapons." The Grand Armada arrived exactly as Vorak had promised. 3,000 warships dropped out of FTL travel at the edge of the Alpha Centauri system. Their formation, a testament to military precision. "They're transmitting," the communications officer announced. Emperor Vorak's face appeared on the main screen, his multiple eyes blinking in what might have been amusement. "Admiral Morrison, I expected to find you cowering at Earth. Instead, you've chosen a different world to die for. How noble, and how futile." Morrison met the alien gaze steadily. "We're not here to die, Emperor. We're here to teach you something about freedom." Freedom! Vorak spat the word like a curse. An illusion that keeps lesser beings content in their mediocrity. The universe bends to strength alone. "Then let's test that theory," Morrison replied before cutting the transmission. The battle for Alpha Centauri began with a thunderous barrage from the hidden railguns. Massive kinetic projectiles tore through the front lines of the Zephyrian fleet, destroying dozens of ships in the opening minutes. The coalition fleet remained in defensive positions. Protected by the asteroid field, they had converted into a fortress. Emperor Vorak, watching from his command ship at the rear of the formation, sneered at the primitive tactics. "Press forward. Overwhelm them with numbers. No defensive position can withstand the full might of the Grand Armada." The Zephyrian ships advanced, their energy weapons carving paths through the asteroid field. For hours, the battle seemed to hang in the balance, the coalition forces inflicting significant damage, but slowly being pushed back by sheer numbers. Then came the moment Captain Parker had been waiting for. His Falcon squadron, hidden among the debris of destroyed vessels, activated their stealth systems and slipped behind enemy lines. Their target, Emperor Vorak's command ship. "Operation Trojan Horse is a go," Parker transmitted to Morrison. "Wish us luck." Using the intelligence gathered from the captured Zephyrian vessel, Parker's team infiltrated the massive command ship. While the battle raged across the system, they made their way to the central computer core, the nexus of the Zephyrian command network. "Uploading the virus now," Parker reported, his voice tense as his team held off Zephyrian security forces. 90 seconds to full integration. Aboard his throne room, Emperor Vorak was celebrating the imminent victory when the lights flickered. His communication officers reported in panicked tones as system after system fell to the spreading virus. "What is happening?" Vorak demanded. The main screen activated without command, showing Captain Parker's face. A lesson in humility. Emperor, your entire command network is now under our control. Your ships can no longer communicate with each other, or with you. Throughout the Grand Armada, chaos erupted. Without the centralized command structure, ship captains fell back on individual initiatives. Some continued to attack. Others attempted to defend their suddenly vulnerable vessels. And still others, those from worlds that had suffered under Zephyrian rule, saw their opportunity and turned their weapons against former masters. Within hours, the battle had transformed into a rout. Nearly a third of the Grand Armada was destroyed, another third damaged or captured, and the remainder, including Emperor Vorik's command ship, fled the system in disarray. The news spread across the galaxy at the speed of quantum communication. The invincible Zephyrian Dominion had been defeated by a coalition led by humanity, a species that, until recently, had been confined to a single star system. In the aftermath, over 200 worlds declared independence from the crumbling empire. Representatives gathered on Earth to form the Galactic Council of Free Worlds, an alliance based not on conquest, but on mutual respect and cooperation. President Lisa Carter addressed the inaugural session from Earth's orbital station. Her words transmitted to every corner of known space. Today marks not just the end of a war, but the beginning of a new era. We have learned that freedom cannot be purchased or surrendered. It must be earned through will and action. The Zephyrian Empire believed that strength came from domination. We have proven that true strength comes from unity, from respecting the unique contributions of every world and every species. She gestured to the stars, visible through the station's panoramic windows. There are thousands of stars yet unexplored, countless civilizations waiting to be discovered. Let us go forward not as conquerors, but as explorers and friends. Let us build a galaxy where no emperor can threaten a world with extinction, where freedom is the birthright of every sentient being. As the applause of a dozen different species filled the chamber, Admiral Morrison stood at the viewport, gazing outward at the infinite expanse. Dr. Walsh joined him, following his gaze. "What are you thinking, Admiral?" she asked. Morrison smiled slightly. "I'm thinking about how small we thought we were, and how large we've become, not in territory or military might, but in spirit." "The beginning of a golden age?" Walsh suggested. "Perhaps," Morrison replied. "Or perhaps just the beginning of a longer journey. The universe is vast, and we've seen only a fraction of its wonders and dangers. In the distant reaches of unexplored space, Emperor Vorak's damaged command ship limped toward a remote outpost, his empire in shambles, his authority questioned for the first time in centuries. The Emperor stared at the tactical display, showing the growing coalition of free worlds. "This is not over," he whispered to the empty throne room. "They have won a battle, but the war has only begun." Back on Earth. As celebrations continued around the world, Captain Steve Parker stood on a beach watching the sunrise. The weight of what humanity had accomplished and what it might yet achieve filled him with quiet pride. From a single blue planet, humanity had risen to challenge a galactic empire and emerged victorious, not through superior firepower, but through courage, ingenuity, and the unquenchable desire for freedom. The dawn light sparkled on the waves, a new day for Earth and for all the free worlds among the stars. Admiral Torres, recently promoted after the battle, joined Parker on the beach. Together, they looked up at the morning sky, where the stars were no longer visible but still present. "Do you think they'll come back?" Torres asked. Parker considered the question. "Probably. Tyrants rarely learn from defeat. They only grow more determined. And when they do?" Parker smiled. "Then we'll be ready. Not just humanity, but all of us together. That's the lesson in all of this, alone. We're vulnerable but united. United, we can face anything the galaxy throws at us." As they watched the rising sun bathe the world in golden light, both officers felt the same emotion: hope. not just for humanity, but for every species that yearned to determine its own destiny among the endless stars. The end.